Alright, the first thing that you want to do is go on to onshape.com, create an account, and we'll get into how to create a new file or new folders in just a second. What I want to do is open up this file here. This is where I tested out some of the processes that we're going to have in this book. What I don't want to do is explain what each one of these items you see on this page are. Let's just look at it in a general description. So up here you have tools. Normally you're going to create a sketch and then you'll flush that tool out with extrude or sweep or revolve. Over here are features. So as you create sketches and then you try to flush those parts out, either by extrude or sweep or whatever tool you're using, you'll see those build up over time. They'll start to be listed here. And you're going to want to name those so they don't get confusing. Once that part is finalized and you've created it, it's going to appear here in parts. And you'll number it and name it so that it corresponds to the features above. That'll make it easy for you to organize your workspace. Over here, this is where we move the part around, either in isometric view or plane view. So right here, we are in isometric view. This would be the front plane view. This would be the top plane view. So that's how you're going to move that around. Now, in order to do this efficiently, you're going to need a mouse. Now let's look at the different views. Most of the time, we're going to be in Part Studio. Then eventually, as we make parts or build parts, we want to make sure they're assembling correctly before we print these off. We'll go to Assembly View and start to assemble those. Then we can also create a drawing. And as we change things in the Part Studio, if we need to go back and make adjustments after we printed it, let's say something doesn't match up or we need to scale something out, increase the size of the diameter of threads, what have you, you have to update this drawing view. The primary view we're going to use is Part Studio. Occasionally Assembly View, and occasionally we'll do a drawing. So that's all I want to do right now when it comes to actually using the workspace. You can also undo. But let's go back to that original view you saw. We're going to create a new file, and we're going to start from the very beginning. I've made sure in this older file that I have that everything is working out, so that way we're not making a bunch of mistakes that we have to correct. I'm not saying we won't have any. There may be things that we'll want to resize based on what we find when we actually print the part or we go to Assembly View. We may have to change angles, we may have to change the diameter of threads, what have you. All right, so let's go ahead and go to Create. Let's create a new document. Let's title that. This design is specifically for the DLE 170. So let's go ahead and put 170 in there so we know exactly what type of paramotor frame we're creating. Now I have the free service, so I'm going to create a public document. If you've paid for the service or have an educational file, then it won't be public. But for me, I'm just using this to create books on how to do the design itself. Go up here, right here on these three lines, left click, go down to Workspace Units, and change your default unit to inches. So it might have been set to millimeters. So we'll get it into inches so that it'll be easy for you to follow along. And you can change that later on, but keep it as inches. So you can see that you can change angle, pounds, any of those physical properties later on if you need to. But right now, let's just change that to inches. Hit the check mark, close that out.